Tonight on my old Kentucky home, 'tis summer, the people are gay. Well, the corn top's ripe, and the meadows in the bloom, while the birds make music all the day.
Democrats are set to take control of the U.S. Senate, House, and the White House.
This will go down as one of the most progressive administrations in American history.
God willing, everything is on the table.
You now can pass things without a filibuster threat.
That's right.
Oh, you'll regret this, and you may regret it a lot sooner than you think.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
Just wonderful. I mean, there's nothing that makes me want a mint julep and a little ray of sunshine more than the voice of Michael Duncan serenading us with Old Kentucky Home.
The dulcet tones. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, folks. Voice of an angel.
Voice of an angel. And he's leading us back into a little bit of normalcy because the first Saturday in May is coming up, which is the Kentucky Derby.
And
Fantastic.
for folks who, I mean, if you follow me on Twitter, you're probably well aware. I am a huge enthusiast of the Kentucky Derby, the Triple Crown races. You know, I frequently attend the Belmont Stakes when it takes place in New York. Great time to be had, folks. Horse racing in general is just a wonderful sport. You know, you're watching these animals run, and you're just like binge drinking as fast as you possibly can with friends. It's one of the finest ways to spend an afternoon.
Well, you're also sizing the things up too. I mean, when people, listeners of the program, know how you take a look at a horse and see if you can wrench that thing down to the ground.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, so, you know, you'll always have these like odds makers. You've got these people who try handicapping sports. No, folks, you know, yet again, this is a situation where I tell you facts don't matter. Trust your feelings. I believe in intuition, magic. That's what gets results, not these number crunchers. They never work. I 100% just base it on feeling, intuition, and magic.
Which is probably right, but then you also a measurement of whether you can fight the horse.
I mean, that's also, you know, that's one of the factors you got to take into consideration. If it looks like one of these fighting horses, you know, one of the things is like when the horses are getting ready to race, when they're putting them in the gates, if there's a lot of gate shenanigans going on, you know, you got a horse that's kind of wild in there. I mean, they want to run. They're ready to go.
Gate antics are
gate antics.
That's a very important thing you got to look for. No question. Well, we're gonna handicap a little bit of that. We've got a very big show. The House Republican leader, Kevin McCarthy, is going to join us fresh off a conference with all Republicans down in Orlando, Florida. And he's going to be giving us his thoughts on the Obama. It's the same thing as Obama, though.
Isn't it, right?
The junk that is coming out of the current president's mouth in terms of what he wants to do for this country, along with a lot of other stuff. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a great show. We got an amazing guest. The adventures of Smug in Miami continue. Ladies and gentlemen, so last night, the other night, we had a Minions happy hour here in Miami, Florida. The turnout was, I think we expected maybe like 12 or 15 people, and we got, I think at the end of the night, we had 40 folks up in there. Oh. Wonderful time to be had. Wonderful people. This is how we do it, folks. It's about the grassroots. Get to know your neighbors. Get to know your fellow conservatives. And let's get our people elected. Let's keep winning.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you're down there doing it. Looks like you're having a really tough assignment for the rest of us as you're lounging in a beach chair.
Yeah, that's the best thing, honestly. And so, as I discussed, there's this huge influx of folks who worked in tech or VCs or starting companies from San Francisco to Miami. And it's because you've got a Republican mayor here who's extremely business friendly. You've got a Republican congressman. You've got a Republican governor. You've got 2 Republican senators. Hey, I mean, no income tax. This is a town that's like ready to go for creating jobs, getting businesses rolling after COVID. It's incredible. And there is like a deep rooted hatred of communism and socialism in this town that is just, it's wonderful to see, because all day long, you know, essentially every newsroom has become like a Democrat socialist paradise. They're all unionizing all day long. They're like, oh, well, you know, we should be completely dependent on the government and have the Green New Deal. It is unreal that you're in a major city in America and everyone loves the country, loves businesses, loves job creators, and not to mention every day it's 80 degrees and 70 degrees at night. It's phenomenal. Phenomenal. I may not come back.
Leadership at its finest. I have to touch on another piece of leadership I saw in the news here this week, and it relates to tech. It's a CEO, basically, that was fired as a CEO of a $2 billion company for taking LSD before meetings. Evidently, this guy, his name is Justin Zhu, who he thought like experimenting with LSD would make his company more profitable outside the box. Is he wrong? I don't know. It's a $2 billion company.
That's the thing. The company's worth $2 billion. If the guy's dropping LSD, I'm fine with that. You know, I get a feeling there's this new movement. I'm calling them shroom cons, right? These are people who take mind-altering drugs but are also conservatives, right? It's kind of like the Steve Jobs thing where he was like, only after he took LSD, he was able to like think differently. And like that was a result of it. And like a bunch of these tech folks, you know, as a result, they'll like drop acid, go on a vision quest, and they're like, oh God, I need to create this app. And it ends up working, you know? So I think this is absolute travesty. If the guy's going to drop LSD, he drops LSD. You know, come on. He shows up to a meeting. Honestly, would you want to be at a meeting where your boss is on LSD? I certainly would. That'd liven things up a bit. You know, no one likes a standing meeting. It's like, oh gosh, 2:30 on Tuesday. This is going to be real fun. Actually, this time it might be.
So Holmes, I didn't see this story. Is this full blown LSD or is this that microdosing thing?
No. It's full blown LSD. I've heard of the microdosing, which is just a little taste from what I understand.
A little bit.
Yeah, but this guy was like in. He was in. He was going for a ride in front of every one of these meetings, which again, like, look, I understand how people look down on that, but it looked like it worked. I mean, the guy's got a $2 billion company, or he had a $2 billion company out of the deal.
Dude, this is incredible. So I'm reading the article right now. It says Justin Zhu was experimenting with drugs to boost his focus, but the legal drug goes against marketing startup Iteral's company policy, which resulted in him being kicked out. Imagine being the CEO and putting in a drug policy and being like, I forgot to get rid of that before I dropped LSD. Amazing.
Look, I mean, it works for Joe Rogan. You know, Rogan's always talking about taking ayahuasca and stuff. And
that's the coffee, though, right?
Or is that some like cactus or something like that?
Yeah, no, I think that's peyote. That's peyote. But yeah, ayahuasca is a hallucinogen.
I thought there was like a Brazilian coffee, but it makes you hallucinate.
Oh yeah, apparently.
See, ayahuasca, I hear that sounds almost like one of those tequilas. There's like reposada, ayahuasca.
I would microdose some ayahuasca in a tequila for sure.
And, you know, they actually do talk about that. They say the use of LSD has been a shortcut, an artificial confidence booster for some of those in Silicon Valley. The late Steve Jobs, co-founder of Apple, admitted to using the substance, saying, taking LSD was a profound experience, one of the most important things in my life. Hey, I mean, you know, I it's kind of like this is one of the few areas where I'm kind of libertarianish. I think if you are an adult capable of making your own decisions and you're taking a drug in your like safety of your own home,
yeah,
hey, go for it. You know, that's fine. As long as it's not like a hard drug. Like it's different if you're like taking bath salts or meth or something, you're going to go out and cause problems. But, you know.
I don't know, man. I mean, I'm a little worried about the hallucinogens if I'm being serious. I mean, I'm like terrified of my own brain. Like you're going to go and you unlock some of that. I'm a little scared.
All I know is that this conversation in the 1980s called, and they want to thank cocaine for the entire development of the sector.
Yeah. Hey, look at Miami, right? You know, sometimes you can build great things with it.
Unbelievable. Well, listen, we started with my old Kentucky home, and we're going to have to talk about the Derby a little bit here. Duncan, you take this seriously. I know I take it seriously. I actually phoned a guy, my secret guy, who used to work at Churchill. He's got it all. He handicaps the hell out of this stuff. I'm going to be releasing his picks, which I think, I mean, I've played them like a couple of years. They never miss.
No kidding.
No, never miss. No.
All right. Well, but let me look at this list. And I'll try to make
How about this? Why don't I go ahead and I read off for the benefit of the listeners, let me read off the names of all the horses here. So we've got Known Agenda, Like the King, Brooklyn Strong, Keep Me in Mind, Sainthood, Obesos, Mandaloon, Medina Spirit, Hot Rod Charlie, Midnight Bourbon, Dynamic One, Helium, Hidden Stash, Essential Quality, Rock Your World, King Fury, Highly Motivated, Super Stock, Soup and Sandwich, and Bourbonic.
These are some fire names.
And it's a lot of horses. I mean, that is a big field.
Yeah, that's a big field.
I like Hot Rod Charlie, if I'm being honest.
That's a fire. So here's the thing: is I put a lot of faith. There's this guy Bob Baffert, absolute king. You usually see him in any Triple Crown race. The guy's there, golden. He's got the silver mane. He's got the aviators. I put a lot of faith in Baffert. Are any of these horses Baffert horses?
So
Duncan?
Medina Spirit is a Baffert horse, and
Really?
Look, it's hard to bet against the guy. I mean, he's an absolute legend of the sport. But it's really interesting. The Courier Journal actually put up a story about this. It seems like Bob's kind of sandbagging a little bit here. He's like,
bring his best stuff.
He's like, no, he's like, yeah, top 10, maybe top 5 horse, but I don't think he's got it.
Wow,
that's a little surprising.
Wow.
You know. Here's what I'll say. I'll put the Baffert horse, Medina Spirit. I'll put that for number 3 for me.
That doesn't feel like there's enough intuition and magic going on, though. I feel like you should probably name another horse that you would take.
Number 3. Okay, so I'm basing that Medina Spirit because it's a Baffert horse. Going by name, so I have a feeling like the winning horses, they have names like Affirmed, Barbaro. It seems to be like a one-word kind of name, but a very strong name. Sainthood or Mandaloon, those feel strong, but you never get 2 horses with M's at the start of their name in the top 3. So it's not going to be Mandaloon and Medina Spirit. This is looking like, okay, I think Sainthood is 2. You got Sainthood at 2, Medina Spirit at 3. The winning horse. This is just pure name, Bourbonic. That Bourbonic plague when it hits, that's It's a good night when the Bourbonic plague hits.
I love how you did that. You did that without any odds. You're just
no odds.
This doesn't care.
No odds. I do not look at the odds.
That's total intuition.
Well, we got to match him up. We got to match him up against the expert here.
Well, look, I mean, I'm probably going to do a trifecta box, and for our listeners at home, that's where you take who you think are going to finish 1, 2, 3, and you box it so any iteration of that bet pays. I'm going to go Essential Quality, who's the overall favorite, Highly Motivated, and Rock Your World. And the reason why I really like Highly Motivated, it's a 10-1 horse. So, a little longer odds than you would typically find in, a runner-up horse, but performed extremely well in their last outing, Bluegrass Stakes, where Highly Motivated and Essential Quality were in the same race, and they just like crushed the competition. And Essential Quality just has like a whole nother extra gear in the final turn in the straightaway, and won it. I think those two are gonna, go 1-2. And I think it's going to be a good race. I mean, there's a couple other horses that are in this that people are looking at.
Don't give it all away, pal. I got my picks to make here too.
Okay. Well, you want to go first?
Well, no, I got to relay. I have to give the people their free money because I'm going to give the insiders picks.
This is a huge value add.
Wow.
This is value add. Listeners, you're getting your money's worth here.
Okay. Well, how about this? How about you give the insider picks and I still got a little on spool here.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, I know what you can read in the magazine. I got this guy out in the
Yeah.
I got this guy out in the barn.
Holmes, I have a feeling your connect is also maybe my connect, which is totally possible. I made a few texts today. I'd be like, hey man, Derby, what you got?
This guy, it just prints free money. All right. So here's the way that he broke it down to me was to relate it to politics as if I'm an idiot, because I think that's probably right, but also makes it very clear. So number 1, he agrees with you. Essential Quality, right? This is his description, not mine. He's the Mitch McConnell of horses. Tons of gray, always wins, not always pretty, never makes a mistake.
Wow.
I'm serious. Watch that horse. Just YouTube the Bluegrass Stakes and see how that horse closes a race. It is dominant.
Wow.
So anyway, that's the number 1. Number 2, Rock Your World. I think you had him 3rd.
Yeah.
He's got him 2nd. He's got him in 2nd. He says it's a young Joe Biden of horses because he keeps going and going and going and going and going and going. If you recall Joe Biden's 1980s and 1990s He gave every epitaph. He gave every single funeral, like whatever the speech was, he gave it. It was always about himself, and it was like 2 hours long.
But he always shows up. He's always there.
Shows up,
That's
but he
right.
always shows up.
I thought the Biden was going to be about the teeth. Like he's got those Biden teeth for the horse. It's like, does Biden have horse teeth or does the horse have Biden teeth? You know, that's the question, folks.
Yeah, and he doesn't know where he is. So 3, the show position, as we say in the biz, Hot Rod Charlie.
Wow.
Ooh.
Yeah. So he says, and this is him, not me. He says this is the Trump White House of horses. Is owned by a bunch of frat guy football players from Brown. Their uncle trains them, and it's a real fratty family thing,
Hell
right?
yeah.
They're real.
Dude, what a great name for a horse. That fits so perfect.
Hot Rod Charlie. So he thinks that this is a good horse and it's going to finish 3rd. 4th, he gives us a superfecta pick, which,
Ooh.
listen, this pays if this thing hits. Midnight Bourbon. Midnight.
Ooh.
It's a 20-1 horse. I asked for the explanation. He said, just because.
Just because.
Wow.
Just because.
Well, so I like that. I like that he gives you some more options there, because if you're going to make any money in horse racing, you got to find somebody. The values in the longer odds and getting those in a trifecta or an exacta or superfecta, because that's just where you make the money. Because essential quality, I mean, what's that? Going to be like a 2-1 horse, so you're not going to get paid that much.
That's
but
right.
you throw in Hot Rod Charlie, and suddenly you're going home with some scratch.
Totally.
Yeah, you know what? So I'm going to place 2 bets. I'm going to use the bets from the expert, and I'm going to use my crazy bets too. We'll see how that works out. What you got, Duncan?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to do that trifecta. I'm going to stick with highly motivated. That 10-1 odds boosts up my trifecta, and I like that a lot. Who I'm not going to bet on is Known Agenda, and Known Agenda's got some pretty short odds. It's supposed to be a good horse, but got the 1 draw, so he has to fight it out on the rail, and I think he's going to have some trouble in traffic. So that's my pick.
That's good thinking.
I love it. Listen, you all need to, because we're sort of like free of COVID restrictions, or at least sort of free of COVID restrictions. Everybody needs to get together, put your big freaking hat on, pour yourself some bourbon, get some friends around, watch this thing, bet on stuff, have a blast.
Absolutely.
All right. So the other thing we're going to talk about, obviously, we need to all watch this dreaded speech of Biden. And I got to tell you, I think they're up to like $6 trillion of proposals that are out there now.
Wow.
I mean, they are taxing and spending. I mean, this guy, honestly, he makes Barack Obama look like Ronald Reagan.
It's really wild. Like the decisions that they've started making in terms of how they're going to tax and spend have been just out their numbers. Like the market is shook with some of these demands of raising taxes, like what was it, capital gains tax by like 33%, going from 21 to 28. Absolute madman, and he's already got plans to spend it like a drunken sailor
on stupid stuff too. I mean, all of this is basically unlimited money. Like $1 trillion is basically an unlimited check.
Yeah.
Right. And so somebody said, Smug, I have a blank check. You can do whatever you want with it. It's the government's money. We're just going to tax the rich somehow. What do? Do you go try to like ban cow farts, or do you come up with something more innovative than that?
Absolutely more innovative. Like you see these examples of these massive government spending programs. Like when Obama tried the shovel-ready jobs thing, like where were the, like everyone knew, where were the jobs? Where are the jobs? These people, the money doesn't ever make it to the cause that these Dems claim. It's all just like handouts to their own people, right? Oh. Like how they keep giving money to the school unions, and the teachers still refuse to show up. And $1 trillion towards these dumb pie in the sky plans, absolute waste of money. You give me $1 trillion, we start making actual, important things happen. Number one, we're bringing back the woolly mammoth. Number one, done. I'll call like Elon Musk, I'll call a zoo, and I'll be like, we're going to work things out. Elon, a couple of things from Elon. For $1 trillion, he can do it. Make Westworld real, number one. Number two, bring back the woolly mammoth and just like dinosaur monsters in general. So like and ideally you have it all in one shebang. So you could have your dinosaur park that also has a Westworld. So you have the robots fighting dinosaurs with woolly mammoths too.
Oh my God.
You
There's a
can
lot
do that
going
for
on.
$1 trillion. You can make that happen. I guarantee $1 trillion makes that happen. And what are the results? America starts having these like scientific breakthroughs. You know, this country used to build things. We used to like, we put a man on the moon. We bring back the woolly mammoth. Done. $1 trillion. I mean, like, what else would you want to do?
It's a little bit like the dorky version of what is that, Office Space, when he asked what he would do with $1 million.
With the millions, like 2 chicks? No, man. Listen, trillion. I mean, imagine how many women. It'd be women galore, man. You tell them I got a woolly mammoth. Yeah, good luck having weekend plans, man. You're booked.
Everybody wants to see the woolly
Yeah,
mammoth.
yeah. I got a mammoth. I got robots and dinosaurs. It's just another day. $1 trillion gets it done, I guarantee. And it's way better than, I don't know what they're spending it on, like probably like solar panels on windmills or some garbage like that. That's not going to work.
Well, and God knows Smug would give back to the economy.
Yeah, I mean, we would have a booming economy. Booming economy.
What you said, Holmes, is really true, though. You know, that Biden makes Obama look like Reagan here. And there was somebody, you know, who put up an article yesterday basically calling it moderate radicalism. And it's sort of this idea that, like, you put, you know, Joe Biden's old mug out there with his homespun wisdom to sell it. But at its heart, all of his agenda is like radical left-wing stuff, right? I mean, the amount of money we're spending alone and the higher taxes too. But then you look at things like packing the court, eliminating the filibuster, DC statehood, all this stuff is like really, really radical, but they're able to sort of sell it through Joe.
Yeah, they are. Except, you know, here's the thing. American people just fundamentally aren't as dumb as Democrats think they are.
Yep.
Right. The fact of the matter is most people don't tune into politics in the first quarter of a non-election year. Right. They've got all kinds of issues going on, getting out of COVID, trying to get kids back into school. Like your average American is doing what they need to sort of survive in their life. They're not plugged into the ins and outs of this stuff, but the bases are. Right. And I remember in 2009, the Republican base was still not quite congealed. The Republican base, fast forward to 2021, extremely congealed, like extremely concerned about the Biden agenda. Right. If you fast forward, I will be willing to place whatever bet anybody wants to make that by this time next year, you will have a feverish, angry Republican base that is ready to dominate midterm elections. Because what all of these analysts are failing to pick up right now, they're saying like, oh, he's still got 53% approval rating. Well, I mean, Obama had 67 at this point in his presidency. Biden's at 53. He's at the best he's ever going to be. And he's there because the vast majority of people aren't paying attention. Once they do start paying attention, that thing's going to slide in a hurry. And he has no capability of coming back to it. None.
You bring up a really good point, Holmes. And I was just thinking through, you know, that period of time, you know, after, you know, sort of Obama's honeymoon period, he went into that stimulus bill. And then remember in the summer, it was, you know, summer of recovery, which turned out to be a dud, and cash for clunkers and the Solyndra scandal, and then Obamacare and everything. And you're absolutely right. By August, you know, town halls weren't very pretty for Democrats.
No,
and Republicans.
People started paying attention.
Right.
You know, I think that's going to happen here. It's happening earlier is my point.
Right.
With more veracity than it did in 2009. And everybody who says, oh, it's just because we're in a polarized environment. Bullshit. That's not the people aren't what's polarized. What's polarized is the politics. Anytime you show up with $6 trillion of social engineering to try to pretend like, you know, kids don't need to go to school. Teachers unions rule. We can teach critical race theory. We're going to pay, you know, people basically not to work. Like that stuff is going to get under people's skin.
Well, you make a really good point on the teachers union. That's actually our next topic here. There was some reporting out yesterday about all the donations from teachers unions that spiked to Democrats in Congress as they were debating, you know, school reopening. AFT, NEA, just given boatloads of money to all these Democrats across the country, as they're basically, extorting all of these parents, saying, oh, we can't get your kids back in the classroom until we get all this money. Gimme, gimme, gimme.
Yeah. If you have friends that are Democrats, tell them, like, look, this isn't about tone. This isn't about West Wing. This isn't the fun little story of your government. What's actually happening is you have a radical left agenda that is bought and paid for by people like the teachers unions who don't give a shit about your kids. Like they don't care at all. They just want the paycheck. And they want to continue the gravy train rolling, which is what all of these trillions of dollars of spending are inclined to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's very blatant and it's out in the open. Like even a lot of these dark money groups spent tens of millions electing Biden, and they're all just collecting now. They're all collecting now. They're getting their people put into the Biden White House the same way that these teachers unions know, hey, you cut these people checks, they do what you want. Meanwhile, I mean, these parents, you're still paying property taxes. These schools, you're still paying that amount. These schools have been given billions and billions of dollars that they haven't even spent yet.
No, I mean, there's one really hilarious part of this thing that Biden rolled out last night where they were going to pay for free community college. Did you see this?
Yeah.
And on its face, you're like, oh, okay. I mean, people get a level of education they wouldn't ordinarily have. Great. In practice, the only reason that community college is actually affordable is because it's not subjected to the same sort of federal loan and subsidies that four-year education universities have been subjected to without any price controls.
Yeah.
Right?
It makes it so that, like, okay, well, if they know that government loans and all this money is going to come to them, yeah, sure, we can charge like $50,000 a semester. Who cares?
Which is what happens.
You're going to end up seeing that in community colleges if they step in with the same thing.
And I'll argue it's basically, this is a much larger problem than ultimately what happened with the housing industry. And when in 07 and 08, when we found out that nobody was paying their mortgages and all of these financial instruments started falling apart because the economy was going south, like the basic promise that led to that is that a liberal idea that everyone should own their own home, right? So they were going to subsidize all and sort of work these loans to a point where you could get into houses that you couldn't afford. The same exact thing is true of education. Instead of telling four-year universities that you cannot charge your average high school graduate $50,000 a year and get state or federal subsidies, instead of saying that, they just continue to plug in the subsidy, right? So now the cost of education is through the roof. And what's the Democratic answer? More subsidies. More subsidies.
It's the same game over and over. They let their big government policies come in. They jack up the prices for everybody, and it turns into an extortion circle. That's all this is about.
Totally.
And there you go. All right, so you know what time it is, folks? It's time to give the people what they want. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for King of the Hill.
Yes.
Let's go.
A nice cadence, but I was knocked off. I got to be honest with you. Spending the last 6 weeks on top of the King of the Hill with Bill Kristol has spoiled me.
Right? I mean, the guy is an all-time talent.
It spoiled me. I didn't have to look for stuff. I just knew that, his tweets would be there when I needed them. And I had to go out and find a challenger.
And I'm, as usual, folks, the reigning champ, Matthew Dowd, is who I'm rolling with.
Yeah.
So who do you have for us today, Holmes?
Well, after deep searching, like I looked at 6 or 7 different options. I wanted to get somebody, that we hadn't had in a little while. I settled on Maximum Boot.
There we go.
Boot.
Yeah. Can we go
Return of the King?
Can we go ringside?
Let's go ringside.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. It's time for King of the Hill. And now, in the red corner, fighting from under a crooked fedora, standing 5 feet 11 3/4 of an inch, a max, a permanent deployment, a boots. And now, in the blue corner, Twitter account, standing 5 feet 7 inches tall, and our reigning champion of the world, Matthew Male Pattern Down.
All right. I'm fired up. I feel like my guys got what it takes.
Well, it's going to be a tough fight for him because, ladies and gentlemen, defending champion of King of the Hill, Matthew Dowd.
What do you got? You got to go first. This is the thing. You got to prove it here.
All right. So this is Matthew Dowd, April 25th. So we are learning that Republicans are more worried about hamburgers than democracy. Pretty cheesy. I mean, it doesn't make sense on 100 different levels, but the fact that he doesn't know the difference between a hamburger and a cheeseburger when he rolled with pretty cheesy, the audience was completely confused on that one. Like, not even the brainworm wine moms were like, "Oh, okay, this makes sense." They were even just like, "Oh, I think that's cheeseburger," but okay.
Okay. Max Boot. We no longer have to wake up every day wondering what crazy damn fool thing the president just said. As one voter told NBC News, the best thing about Joe Biden is I don't have to think about Joe Biden. Amen. The best part is like, you could say a lot of things about Joe Biden, but that he's not a rhetorical liability at every single time he has a microphone is certainly not one of them. Like that's it. It's sheer insanity.
Wow. These are good. I mean, they're divergent. As I often like to see on King of the Hill, there's a different tact for each of our competitors.
Absolutely.
I feel like Smug gave us a real good cringe tweet. That was a really solid cringe tweet. I guess where my head's at on this is basically, I mean, what Holmes produced there in that tweet with Maximum Boot is, what I think is sort of like key to your sort of like passive liberal political worldview, and that is like politics for you is basically a spectator sport, and you go on MSNBC, a couple times a week to get your talking points, but you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You'd rather just politics go away because there's nothing at stake for you in any of this, right? You live a pretty cushy life in some coastal city, and politics is just an extension of your personality.
He's paid to be an expert.
Right. Well, we got Joe in there, so it's all fine. I don't have to care anymore. Doesn't matter what happens now.
Doesn't matter.
I put the black square on Instagram. I did my part. And for that, Holmes wins round one.
I mean, it was a good one. I got to admit, that was a good one. That was solid. But it's Max Boot, folks. I mean, he always brings his A game.
It's Max Boot. He's tough. He's a tough out.
And you know what? We're talking tactics. I'll be honest. That was a throwaway. I've got two fire ones ready to go.
Okay.
Well, you don't have to go first. Holmes has to go first.
Nope. Yeah, it's Holmes going.
So there's, I gotta say here, there's a little bit of a controversy in last week's King of the Hill. Holmes went first all three times. Listeners pointed that out to me. And in Holmes's defense, round two, you had the Cuba tweet, the Cuba Libre tweet from.
I was so excited.
You were just so excited to get it out.
Yeah,
but the rules of King of the Hill is that the champion has to go first in the first round. In the third round, challenger has to go first in the second round.
I gave myself a disadvantage. I lost, but you know what? I meaningfully lost. I would have anyway because the two that Dowd had were basically impossible to beat.
Right.
Basically impossible. So I'm going first on the second round.
Yep.
Max Boot. After the traumas of the past 4 years, I still marvel at the night and day differences. Even looking only at Trump's first 100 days and not what followed in the next 1,361 days, The comparison is lopsidedly, preposterously tilted in Biden's favor.
I got to say, just right off the top, the one thing I like is that he definitely had to Google like how many days had gone by. So
As
he
if
could
it's
make this-
important.
right. Yeah.
Oh, what a dipshit. It's just incredible.
What do you got for us, Smug?
Matthew Dowd, April 27th. People wear masks as an act of caring, compassion, unity, and love for others. People carry Confederate flags as an act of hate and division towards others. See the difference? Actually, friend, people wear masks because the government will fine them if they don't. Like,
Love and compassion.
I mean, that's honestly part of the problem. Like, even with the new, CDC guidelines that once you've been vaccinated, you don't have to wear masks outside. The problem is that they turn this into such a political thing that libs are like, no, you have to wear a mask in the shower. Like, there were libs who were like, I don't mind. I'm still going to wear my mask outside. It's turned into this like crazy, like liberal battle flag of
Joy
I'm going to
Reid
wear the
said.
mask.
Joy Reid said she's going to double mask when jogging in the park.
Yeah,
I mean, that'll tell you. Like, this is no longer about trusting the science or listening to the experts. This has become, now they're comparing it to, it's an act of compassion, unity. And
now
love
that
for
the
others.
CDC has given the recommendation that you don't have to wear a mask outside, are we permitted to mask shame outside? Like, since mask shaming has been such a big thing.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, like, it's crazy, especially like in DC, in like liberal cities. If you're not wearing a mask, like driving alone, people are angry. They're like, I can't believe you.
yeah, but like now that they've spent the last 11 months yelling at everyone about this, like now that the science is on the side of the non-mask wearer, are you allowed to engage?
It's
No.
it's insane. It's
No, you
insane.
get canceled. That's what happened. That's what happened to Tucker Carlson.
Still got canceled.
Immediately canceled.
Yeah, and like my thing is, I will not, now that I've been vaccinated, everyone go get your vaccines. I'm not wearing a mask outside. The CDC has said you don't have to do it anymore. Like, the fact that Dowd is one of these on the front lines of no, always, it's an act of compassion and love. That's the problem, folks.
Not only that, Smug. It's that your wearing of a mask is somehow now a rejection of the Confederate South.
That's what got me. I'm not the judge and the jury, but I will say that equating mask wearing to the Confederate flag is so twisted.
It's
Like,
unbelievable.
It's complete crazy.
For that reason, the judge and the jury has decided Smug wins round 2.
Let's go, Dowd. Let's go, Dowd. And you know what? I want to go right into round 3
go.
because I got some heat.
Well, hold on. You're gonna give it up. Wait, you have to go first.
No, he's got to go first.
I got to go first
yeah.
as defending champion, third round.
Got it.
Go.
Going right to it, folks. Matthew Dowd, April 24th. We are not in the top 10 countries in the world in rankings on freedom, democracy, health, happiness, quality of life, education, income, and sex and race equality. Maybe we should let go of American exceptionalism and begin to learn from countries that are doing better than us. Boom
It's
goes
pretty
the
good.
dynamite.
He's so bad. Oh my God. Let me tell you why I think I can win before I give you my tweet. The reason I think this might be my favorite DC hackery, like, combination of a boomer / like total sellout. I mean, this encapsulates so much for me, but here goes. When a president is doing a good job, that means he has a White House chief of staff who's doing a good job. Thank you, tags Ron Klain, for all your hard parentheses and effective work. He fucking tagged him.
Tagged him.
And which of course results in a Ron Klain RT, and then like the whole establishment media oh, Max and Ron are buddies, and oh, look, he's doing a good job, and oh, it's so great. Look at all these followers following.
It's something. The parentheses is nice too. The thirst, just the sheer thirst.
Sheer thirst of it all.
Wanting that engagement so badly,
I mean,
that you're
what
going to
a
tag him.
bootlicker. Can you imagine? This is a person whose job it is to make analysis, apparently, of politics. And instead of analyzing anything, he has just wrote a love letter to the White House chief of staff and tagged him in it. I mean, that's just incredible.
In fairness, Smug, do you mind reading yours again?
Absolutely. And listen, this is a nuke. This is legit nuke. It's Matthew Dowd, April 24th. We are not in the top 10 countries in the world in rankings on freedom, democracy, health, happiness, quality of life, education, income, and sex and race equality. Maybe we should let go of American exceptionalism and begin to learn from countries that are doing better than us.
Ooh.
That's all-time insane take.
Oh. Gosh.
But he didn't tag Ron Klain.
It's tough. It's tough. This is really tough for the judge and jury because it's like I've said before. So you got two very divergent tweets, right? You've got one that's like straight beltway thirst engagement from Max Boot, which is really something.
Like you couldn't have seen that 10 years ago. No columnist, I don't care what your ideology is, no columnist who's employed by a newspaper would be able to put a tweet out like that and keep their job.
Let alone one that's whole shtick is somehow that they are the voice of true conservatism.
Right.
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 But then you got Smug's tweet, which is basically, apologize for America around the world. Our country sucks.
It's the essence of a liberal mindset, though, right? So it's like what he just articulated, which is amazing coming from somebody who proclaimed to be conservative. Correct. What he just articulated is what makes you liberal. You believe that you suck, your country sucks, everything about your place where you live is terrible, everybody else does it better, and we ought to be able to listen to them.
I mean, there's so many levels of insanity to it, like saying that the U.S. is not in the top 10 in any metric of democracy. Like, where do you think it came from, folks? Dowd, there's this thing that happened in 1776. There's something you should maybe read. It's insane to make that claim and then to go straight into maybe America needs to learn how democracy works from other countries. Incredible.
This is one of my toughest calls.
It's tough. This is a very tough one. And I'll be frank. Like, I think both of us would be disappointed. We've had a lot of close calls where, a winner, I think ultimately is obvious. I don't think so here.
I just can't get over the fact that he tagged Ron Klain. Holmes win.
Oh,
it's the tag, dude.
Here's the thing on the merits of the tweet and how much it violates the so-called conservative principles they hold. Dowd would win.
Yes.
But in particular in the sort of like rules of the internet, what Max Boot has done is just been so incredibly thirsty.
I mean, it's like you said, there's different approaches to it. Like, you can either try going for like a brainworms take. You can go for one that's just like ultra cringy. And like, I'll give credit where it's due. That is like such wild internet work being put in there. The thirstiness, like I'll be honest. I'm not a sore loser. This was an immovable object versus an unstoppable force. This was a coin flip. I tip my hat to Holmes. That
very tough.
Boot really did bring it.
I'll tell you why I picked that third, because you'll remember like months and months ago when we played, Smug had one.
Yeah, that's the one.
It was a Rubin take that was like an RT if you agree type, like boomer.
Yeah,
move,
total boomer internet move.
And I was like, that's it. It was rewarded by the judge and the jury. So I thought this is going to work.
That's exactly the one I thought of. I was like, you know what? We have a strong court that follows precedent.
That's right. I followed precedent. I love that Holmes pulled back the case law.
That's really taking the game to the level it needs to be. I mean, I tip my hat.
That
we
is
have a
the
new
way
champion, folks.
That's the way the game deserves to be played.
Outstanding. I mean, this has already been a banger of an episode, folks. But we have an interview with Kevin McCarthy, folks. I think we should just roll the tape on that now.
Let's do it. I want to welcome to the program the Republican leader of the House of Representatives, soon to be Speaker, God willing, Kevin McCarthy. Yes. Welcome.
Josh, thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Listen, you got a lot going on. I know you spent the week in Orlando getting the troops in line, making sure that we've got our agenda all settled on the Republican side. And, I think a part of that is being ready ultimately to take over, hopefully, in 2022. But how'd it go down there?
It went really well. We named 7 different task forces on many different issues. What's happening in this woke world, we're losing our freedoms, from healthcare to the economy, to the China task force, to our border security. We're watching what's happening down along the border. And members are getting really involved in so much of this, so we're excited by that. We don't want to have happen what happened to the Democrats, Once the Democrats won in Georgia, in the House, they already had their schedule set. They took a break. Yeah. They actually recessed for a week because they didn't know what to pass. They weren't prepared.
Well, I know you're not going to let that happen. But the other side of this coin is President Biden, their agenda, rolling out what is unbelievable. I mean, I was saying earlier in the program, what he's doing makes Obama look like Ronald Reagan. This is completely nuts. What's your take?
What he's doing makes FDR look like it. If you take the percentage from the New Deal, that was about 5.6% of the GDP. This is 27% of the GDP. 5 times what the New Deal was, and people thought that was the biggest expansion of government at any time. It's the first time I've seen AOC smile. She thinks this is going further socialist than Bernie Sanders. It is the greatest bait and switch in American history. Where one person campaigns one way, the bait that somehow he was going to be bipartisan, the switch is the socialism of what he's governing as.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely ridiculous. And I know you guys are going to be standing up and fighting the good fight. I mean, for your perspective, can you kill any of this stuff in the House? I mean, we God willing, he'll have a filibuster.
I'm feeling more confident about that. The majority on the Democratic side is the smallest it's been in 100 years. And as you know, being in this place, every vote accumulates on the next. And you got redistricting coming up. You got a number of members. How are they going to go home and defend what they're voting for tax increases? And when you're talking about these many trillions of dollars, I don't care who you are in America, you're going to be taxed, especially those who aren't even born yet. It doesn't matter how much money you have, you are going to be taxed like you've never seen before. There is no free lunch. It is just going to prove what Margaret Thatcher said. You eventually run out of everybody else's money.
No question about it. The one way that we've seen Americans move around this country as evidence of where they think the economy is the best has come out in the census this week and showed us that a number of red states are growing. That's, hypothetically good news for a House majority in 2022. But we've also seen people move from California and take their voting behavior with them. So nothing's free here. What's your sense? Are we in a good shape to take over the House in 2022?
I believe it so much. Look, I'm not a wealthy man. I live in the first house we ever purchased. I bet my house on it.
That's great.
We're poised to be able to. It's different than 94 and 2010, where those margins were so large, no one believed we can win. Yeah. So it's no shoo-in. You're not given majorities, you earn them. But I believe we're going to earn this one, knowing the team that we have together. But knowing that it's so close, knowing history, that the party in power, whoever wins the White House, usually loses 27 seats in their first off-year election. But remember this. There's only 2 times in history that the party that had the White House lose the White House and gain seats. 1892 and 1992, both times capturing the majority the next time. I've watched before these Democrats. We've already got a number of them retiring. They know they can't run and on what they're voting for. I think they're governing based upon the idea that they know, too, they're going to lose. So they're trying to put every most extreme socialist belief they can try to get through now.
Yeah, that's interesting. And there is an element of that 2009, 2010 Democratic feeling where you're basically just running through a brick wall knowing you're going to get beat in the end, but you're trying to accomplish everything you can. I will say the one thing you have been just absolutely terrific at in your entire career, but it's given us really a good shot here, both in terms of where we're at and where we're going, is the candidate recruitment. You put a lot of thought into that. How are we doing?
The number one attribute you need to win an election is not money. It's the quality of the candidate.
Yeah.
I couldn't be more proud of what happened in the last election. Remember this. This is only the first time since 1994 that no Republican incumbent lost. We beat 15 Democrats. Every single Democrat lost to a Republican woman, a Republican minority, or Republican veteran. That's unheard of. 2 years ago, we only had 44 women get through the primary. You know what happened this time? 95. Doubled the opportunities. And it is only going to expand further. And you know what? Our very best state was California. Think about it. California, where Trump doesn't compete in, so he loses it by 5 million votes. All 4 districts that we won, he lost. 3 of them by double digits. You look at Young Kim. Young Kim's district, Biden won by 10 points, but they voted for Young Kim to throw out the Democrat incumbent. This is a trick. Miami, Maria Salazar, Carlos Jimenez. These are Democrat seats. Beat Donna Shalala. To Minnesota, we won in every aspect. Or you go Nicole Malatakis in Staten Island against Max Rose, who they just loved, they believed. Or Nancy Mace in Charleston, South Carolina. There's not one place in this country we cannot win. And I'll tell you, the recruitments that we have coming and running this time are only going to be better than the ones we just came off of our big win with.
I love that. I want to ask you about it because every leader I've ever been around has their own process, right? Their own way of looking at a candidate. I joke that sometimes it's as easy as handing them a pen and asking them to sell me the pen, right? I mean, it's like, how do I know this person actually has it? What is your process? You've been so good at this over the years. Is there some sort of secret?
You know what? Don't recruit from Washington.
Yeah.
Don't believe what's on the paper. They may have done something well in the past. That doesn't mean it's going to go in the future. This is the only question you have to ask them. Why do you want to run?
I like it.
If they do not have the fire in the belly, they cannot get there.
Yeah.
The best analogy of this, when I first started recruiting in 2010, and one of my first recruits, I went to Tennessee, and I met this farmer. He was from Frog Jump, Tennessee, and I asked him why he wanted to run. He said, I'm watching a country change before my eyes, and I don't know how I tell my children I did nothing.
I love
I've never been elected before. I've never even been to D.C. on vacation. And he won because he had the right fire in the belly.
Yep. Yeah, sometimes you can just feel it. No question. You've had a lot of them, and God willing, we have another batch this time around to get over the top. One thing I wanted to ask you about, because this cycle began, of course, with the media telling us the Republicans were dead and buried because corporate America had abandoned. Now, as well as I do, there's literally no part of the Republican Party that corporate America owns. It became news to the journalism community over the last couple of months. But as that has happened, we've seen, I think, corporate America just absolutely lose its bearings altogether and just sort of throw in with the woke crowd. What is your sense of that? Is that as bad as it looks from the outside, from your perspective?
Corporate America looks like the Academy Awards to me. There's no difference. There's no principle or philosophy behind it. But the great thing about the party looks like those who work in America, those who struggle, those who are willing to take a risk, those who believe that America is exceptional. And it doesn't matter what corporate America wants to do, because that's not the driving of our party. And there was no better example of that than the Chamber of Commerce in the last election. To endorse Democrats that actually vote against what they believe in, and somehow they thought, well, this will make us woke, or this will make them like us. All it did was make them lose their election even further.
No, it's true. They've got like a kiss of death, right? Everything that they touch at this point becomes a losing proposition. It's incredible. Well, look, I know that we've got a big battle ahead of us in terms of what the president is rolled out with trillions upon trillions, and we won't go into the depth and detail of it, but we're all counting on you, because the tax stuff alone is going to just absolutely crater our economy.
No, I understand that. Don't worry. We're going to fight every step of the way, and we got an amazing team behind us. They've got some numbers, but I'll tell you, we're going to make it very difficult. And remember Article 1, Section 7. I know you're a Senate guy, but all tax reform starts in the House. So
That's right.
the battle will start here.
we do have a begrudging respect for Article 1. All right. So I've got 3 big questions for you, Leader, and we'll get you on your way. I know you've got a ton of stuff to do tonight. Here's the big questions that our listeners focus in on. The first one is your last meal on Earth. What would it be?
That'd be the Kevin McCarthy pizza at Frugati's. It's a chicken Parmesan pizza. It's the best.
It's the best. And it's even got your name on it. So, of course.
That's right. And Frugati's. You got to go to Frugati's if you're in Bakersfield. So
awesome.
I'd top that off. Let's do. Okay, if it's one meal, I'd have Luigi's half and half for lunch. I'd have dinner, Kevin McCarthy chicken Parmesan pizza, and then I'd have DeWar's Georgia Special no nuts. That would be my meal.
There you go. You got the full thing taken care of. It's interesting to see how people process this. His health is not an issue on your last day.
Hey, I'm not. It's my last day.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And the sad part about it, I eat that quite often, and it's not even my last day. It's my happy.
Well, you move around enough where you shouldn't be worried about it. All right. Second question. If you were not doing this, if you were not involved in politics at all, what would you be doing with your life?
I love to be an entrepreneur. I'd be fostering more small businesses. I love to take a risk. And I still think this is the greatest country ever to have that opportunity to do it. But this time's when I started by doing with my kids.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's fun. All right. Third and final question. This one's very serious, Later. This is where the rubber meets the road. It goes to the motivation of you. And what motivates you more, the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat?
Agony of defeat by far. It's a question I ask all my candidates. Everybody loves to win, but I want the person that hates to lose.
Oh, I love that.
Because you may want to win, but if you hate to lose, you'll make sure you won't.
What a great answer. You'll appreciate this. We had McConnell on a couple of weeks ago. He tried to sell me that he was an optimism, ray of hope guy.
That's right.
I've been around too long. I've seen too much. I know you're an agony of defeat guy. Well, listen, Leader, you have represented us well for a long time, but you are really taking the next step now, and we're going to get the House of Representatives back. You let us all know what we can do to help. I know you've been a big backer of Win Red and small dollars to our candidates. We're going to help from our platform too, and all of our listeners are going to chip in.
I appreciate that. You have a good day. Take care.
Thanks. So, look, he's all business. He's serious. They are playing for keeps in 2022. He's lining them up. The funny thing is, all week long, people have tried to write stories about Trump versus Cheney and all kinds of distractions. And the one thing I really appreciate about the way Kevin McCarthy is handling his business is he's not talking about it. He's focusing exclusively on what unites his conference and how you ultimately get the speakership back in 2022. I love it.
And that's the thing is it's so close right now. It's so close. We are so close to getting Nancy Pelosi, getting that gavel from her. And you've got blue states losing seats. You've got red states gaining seats. We gotta let the, do not listen to journalists trying to push division. The Republican Party, they know we're right at the cusp of it. We got to unite and we got to take those seats.
Yep, entirely. And he's doing a great job of flying through. I always said that was McConnell's superpower, right? Is that he just blew right through whatever the journalists wanted him to talk about and talked about whatever he wanted to talk about it. I'm seeing that in Kevin McCarthy. Like he is not engaging in the bullshit. He is just getting the job done. And I think that bodes very well for our chances this cycle.
That's fantastic news. Fantastic news. Eyes on the prize, folks. We're going to take the House back.
Let's go.
So with that in mind, folks, we got another episode in the can. So I'm going to call this one. Great work, gentlemen. Great King of the Hill. Great interview. So until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Tuesday. Stay ruthless.